What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So over the weekend, there was a lot of discussion around the gaming industry on strike. And in fact, actually SAG-AFTRA did go on strike now, and that's brought up a lot of questions around some games even being delayed, but we'll go over that here today. Also, we are be talking about AI in gaming, which continues to come up in the news, and most recently in a report where it looks like many sources of information was actually scraped online, which even has people now calling for Nintendo to put up a fight against artificial intelligence. And then we'll also be talking about PlayStation VR 2, as it is coming to PC here pretty soon, and it looks like it's seen its biggest discount yet. So if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members for the channel do get Newswave early. If you'd like to learn more about that, click the join button down below this video. And we're going to start today with Astro, which I am very excited to finally get my hands on, 5 or 6 weeks from now? We're close. It's right at the beginning of September, and we actually got a longer look at the game at ChinaJoy, as we had a little more than 8 minutes of footage that was shown. You can see some of it here, and yes, it is off-screen footage, but it gives us an idea as to how the game is kind of set up here, where they showed the overworld map, which is sort of flying around in space, but even some of the bosses, which right in the beginning, where you're flying in and you jump off the controller and you're running around, within the first couple of minutes, you're already fighting that big octopus boss, and this boss was a bit more in-depth than I was expecting. There are many stages to that boss, as well as even an entire level that kind of forms there after you get past that first stage that you have to traverse through. So I really like what I'm seeing here with Astro now. When you get a look at the map that they showed very briefly, it seemed like there was a lot of stuff to explore. So awesome stuff here. Seeing Team Asobi really go all in on a new 3D Astro game. And again, we're close. 5 weeks or so. First week of September, that'll be their day one. Also, today is the day that the Xbox 360 digital storefront shuts down. That marketplace is gone and might be gone by the time you're seeing this video. We're still unsure as to exactly when this thing is shutting down, but of course, that means many games that are not backwards compatible for the system, well, you won't be able to necessarily buy them digitally on the 360 storefront, which means those physical copies, well, that'll be your only means of really playing these games on, say, an Xbox 360 that obviously you won't be able to use in an Xbox Series or an Xbox One. Most likely those physical copies will probably jump in price, but there are still a lot of questions around what happens to all the games that just disappear, as there were many arcade-specific games for the 360. And then what happens just for digital storefronts in general going forward? Remember, this is like the last holdout of that initial introduction of digital storefronts. We started really with the 360 for consoles, and now we're seeing it completely shut down. And that is still a big question mark, because these console digital storefronts are actually still fairly young. It's a new concept still, if you really think about it in the grand scheme of things, for how long it's actually been around for. So unfortunate stuff there. And if you missed out on some of the arcade games, well, my one recommendation is probably just get a modded Xbox 360 reset glitch hacked system. Awesome device to get. And at this point, Microsoft basically saying it's all legacy, they're not willing to sell it to you. Well, there's plenty of places on the internet that has it archived. Oh, and we have some good news for Armored Core fans, as it looks like Armored Core 6 has hit another milestone. This was shared over on the Twitter X FromSoft account. We can see that they post Armored Core 6 has shipped over 3 million copies worldwide. Thank you to everyone who has played the game, which is substantially more than really any other Armored Core game. I feel like you could just add up all Armored Core titles, and this is probably more than the entire franchise at this point. Armored Core wasn't known for selling well, but this is probably really the FromSoft effect. But also, Armored Core 6 is a high-quality game. It is a good game, so I'm happy to see that it is selling well, and this just tells me there will be another Armored Core game at this point. So it might be a little while, as obviously we know what FromSoft likes to focus on, where a lot of their money comes from after seeing with Elden Ring, and then the expansion there. Yeah, I'm sure they're already thinking about the follow-up and probably working on that right now, but I'm hoping that they have another Armored Core 7 already drawn up and ready to roll, maybe before this generation's out. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with gaming on strike. This is a conversation over the weekend because January 26th at midnight, SAG-AFTRA did officially announce that they would be going on strike, and most likely, if they don't reach any agreements with representatives from these different game companies, could actually force some delays for different games. Although there is one that was announced to have been exempt, which is, I'm sure, a big deal for many, many people out there. But let's actually start here. This is over on IGN, and I will leave this link down below in the sources because there is a lot of history and context that was also outlined in this article. But we could see they say SAG-AFTRA, or Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, is calling a strike beginning 12:01 a.m. on July 26, 2024. So again, ahead of the weekend here. In a call with the media earlier today, SAG-AFTRA negotiating committee members explained that one of the biggest issues remaining involves the definition of who a performer is. Video game companies, says negotiating, the chair, Sarah Elma, are trying to exclude some members from AI protections and are refusing to spell out other protections in clear and enforceable language. Quote, the employer's AI provisions leave the folks who put their bodies on the line the most vulnerable to abuse. They say they get to choose seemingly arbitrarily who is a performer and who is just data. Our union represents all performers. We refuse to allow our employers to disrespect a portion of our members who have poured their lives and talents into making great performances by saying we don't count. Just for clarification here, the convenience bargaining group that is talking with SAG-AFTRA representatives, that includes Activision, Blindlight LLC, Disney Character Voices, EA, Formosa Interactive, Insomniac, Llama Productions, Take-Two, VoiceWorks Productions, and WB Games. But these folks are stand-ins for the larger industry. They're not the only publishers getting strike action. It is important to note, though, as this was confirmed by a spokesperson, GTA 6 is not affected by the strike. I know, again, that was a big thing for people. Okay, what happens to GTA 6? It's, again, probably the biggest releases we've ever seen in gaming history next year, at least at this time next year, but not affected apparently by everything going on here with this current strike. Now, this is something that has been going on since 2022 is actually when they started a lot of their negotiations. And out of like 24 or 25 provisions, this is the one thing that's holding them up at this time. And it comes down to, yes, artificial intelligence, as we've seen AI rapidly evolve and make all kinds of crazy breakthroughs and advancements to the point where you can have entire videos and voices created to mimic just everyday people, and it's getting harder and harder to tell what is just a machine or AI voicing and showing this and creating these scenes and what's actually made by humans. So naturally, yes, the union stuff that are representing these different people who are performing want to make sure they have that figured out in clear and concise language, because these companies want to keep it as open-ended as possible so they have an out just in case AI continues to have these breakthroughs and they can just do most of that work with just a machine. It was pointed out that a lot of the stuff that's really being kind of negotiated now had to do with off-screen talent. So if you're somebody who's just on screen, yeah, in that case, you have your likeness, that sort of thing. But say you're doing mocap, right? That's something that is very important for a lot of games that are trying to really lean into a lot of the narrative-driven stuff. Well, you would want them to also be protected and not necessarily just have them counted as data that AI can then use later on in another project after it's collected there. So this is something that seems like could be going on for a little while. I'm curious if this will start to affect a lot of games meaningfully enough to where, okay, we hear that a game did get delayed, but if it's internal and we haven't heard about the game yet, maybe it's something that just falls into the following year, and then they'll announce it, of course, when they get closer. I'm hoping that's something they get resolved here pretty soon. But here's the thing when it comes to AI, as there are a lot of hard stances right now against artificial intelligence in gaming, as in I won't play a game that's had any kind of AI involved with it. It's going to be harder and harder to tell, and these companies are just not going to tell you. That's the biggest thing. They have no reason to, and in their mind, they can just use the tool, maybe even to create entire voices, dialogue trees, imagery. And in fact, it's happened recently, and just based on a report from Wired, which you can see here, this is cited by The Gamer, Call of Duty reportedly sold an AI-generated skin in the game, that being for like Warzone, for example, or even Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, as there was a set that was made and sold with the Yokai's Wrath bundle, and this is back in 2023, all right? So we're just now learning about this. There are people who have probably bought that set, used it, just played Call of Duty, saying, hard stance against AI, and then you find out later on, oh, that game that I played like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 hours in or whatever, oh yeah, they did use AI to create. And that's the thing. it's going to become more and more common, most likely based on the breakthroughs we're seeing with AI. And now it comes down to, how do we manage and regulate this thing? Because it keeps advancing faster, seemingly, than any kind of regulation can keep up with. So yes, that's why you're seeing something like this SAG-AFTRA strike. They kind of feel like they're forced into it at this point. It's been years of negotiation, and they haven't been able to make any significant progress on that one point, that being with AI. Next up, let's stick with AI for a minute here, because there was another story that broke around artificial intelligence and even training these different models, which is a very important thing, right? Machine learning, trying to make these models get smarter and smarter and, yes, act more and more like humans. Well, in this case, there is one company in particular that had an entire report that was published about them that it's not great. Like, it does really make you stop and think about, well, how a lot of this stuff is covered under copyright laws and how people in their original work is protected from AI models. Well, we can see this is posted up. This is from 404 Media, who says a highly praised AI video generation tool made by multi-billion-dollar company Runway was secretly trained by scraping thousands of videos from popular YouTube creators and brands, as well as pirated films, according to a massive internal spreadsheet of training data obtained by 404 Media, which, by the way, on their website, they have the entire spreadsheet there. You can go through it and take a look at all the different channels that this company pulled from in order to train AI. And there are also a lot of notes next to each one based on what they were looking for, whether it's like an iPhone or cooking tips or whatever it is. They go on to say the model, initially codenamed Jupiter and then released officially as Gen 3, drew widespread praise from the AI development community and technology outlets, covering its launch when Runway released it in June. Last year, Runway raised $141 million from investors, including Google and Nvidia, at a $1.5 billion valuation. So think about that for a minute. Google was an investor in a company that has an AI model that was then ripping a ton, tens of thousands, I think, of YouTube videos in order to train so that their AI model would just get better. That seems very weird looking from the outside in, but gets even more interesting here because now people are actually calling for Nintendo to do something, and maybe that's just because there's a lot of confidence in Nintendo's legal team. It's like, they can do it. If anyone can do it, Nintendo can figure it out. Well, if you go through that spreadsheet, yeah, Nintendo was cited. In fact, they had quite a few of their videos that were scraped. Nintendo Life grabbed just a screenshot here of it from that spreadsheet. And they have all the different YouTube channels for Nintendo's different regions that were cited here. And it's many, many videos. Like, for example, 3,900 videos, 6,100 videos, 2,600. It's tens of thousands. Again, what's interesting is the relevant used keyword is just princess. So, okay, they have Mario Princess animation, and they basically pulled and scraped and learned from all these different Nintendo videos, and we know how Nintendo is with intellectual property. They mean business. They will find you, they will pursue you for just about your entire lifetime, and I have to imagine Nintendo is looking into this, but the question once again comes back to, what protections are in place when it comes to a situation like an AI model scraping original content and then learning from it and using it to better the model? And that's pretty much the sticking point at this time, because no one really knows. It really is like the Wild West right now with artificial intelligence. The only problem is, while, well, the legal system, regulatory system is in the Wild West, AI is quickly approaching the space age. So we're very far apart with this, and it does make you wonder about where things will be 5 or even 10 years from now with AI. I think about 5 years ago, we were hearing about ChatGPT and how it was having conversations, answering back and forth. Okay, that's kind of cool. Now it's just generating like chunks of motion picture. Like, it looks like a high budget Hollywood film with actors or actresses being made up seemingly out of thin air, but of course we know a lot of the stuff being scraped and learned from just the original content on the internet. You also see Google currently, they have AI that will scrape websites and just give you the information at the top of their search results. You don't have to go through and click on the websites that AI bot is getting the information from, but the websites need to exist for it to get the information. So you kind of see where the issue is here on that one. But yeah, it's a very strange time when it comes to technology and artificial intelligence. Is like, okay, how much further is this thing gonna go before there is a breaking point of some kind? I feels like right now, based on everything that's happening, we're not that far off. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about PlayStation VR 2, which is making the jump to PC next month. Actually, in a couple of weeks, it'll make the jump. You will need that adapter box, but otherwise, if you have the headset and that adapter, you can plug it into your PC and use it on Steam with something like Half-Life Alyx. The only issue is for Sony, as well as seemingly Meta, or really any company trying to get VR and gaming to really get moving here, it just hasn't been. But I guess the good news for consumers is that we're seeing steep discounts on something like the PlayStation VR 2. In fact, right now, if you look over on Amazon, it's actually at the cheapest we've ever seen it. I mean, it just got a price drop in terms of a sale of 37%. It's down to $350 for the headset and the 2 Sense controllers, which that's actually not bad. I mean, you can get the Horizon Call, the Mountain Bundle, but if you just want this for PC, you might as well get the PSVR 2 headset and then the adapter box, and it's $400, which for this headset, to pair it with a PC, it's actually pretty good. The headset itself is high quality. It has a lot of features, even though many of them are disabled for PC. It's still not a bad pickup technically then if you're going to be able to use it with all the different games on Steam. Again, we'll see how compatibility is when it does hit the PC market. But if it's decent enough, I mean, this is actually not a bad sale to take advantage of here. But it does show that, yeah, it's not exactly flying off the shelves for Sony. And it does make me wonder if there is... These companies seem to think that VR will eventually catch on. But what if it just doesn't? Like, in terms of gaming or entertainment, I guess someday in the workplace, maybe, how many people want to wear that headset at work then? Like for 7 or 8 hours? I mean, no one really wants to. So I don't think the future is as certain as these companies believe it to be for virtual reality. Not in its current form. Maybe when it becomes like sunglasses that you put on, then it'll be a little more approachable, I feel like, for people. But right now, the pricing, the inconvenience of setting the whole thing up, at times the discomfort of it, well, it's just not something people are exactly rushing out the stores to get at this time. So I feel like VR will someday have that breakout moment to where it's obvious, like, yeah, everyone has VR. But I don't know if it's going to happen anytime soon, or really, if ever. So at least for now, hey, PSVR 2 at about $350, not bad. That, of course, being if you're even interested in VR at all. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, if you don't have a PSVR 2, what's the biggest reason? Price, 34%. I mean, yeah, look, when they showed the price and it was more than the PS5, that's enough for people to go, okay, nope, I'm good. That's it. That's fine. I mean, over $1,000 to get the headset and the PS5, there's just not a lot there. And again, the inconvenience, which no interesting games. That's another big one. Obviously, I don't have a PS5. Well, you need a PS5 to use this. So you can already see the reasons mounting up. I saw people in the comments, like basically all of these. Although I will say, people don't really seem to care that much about the wire for the system that you have to plug it in. I still think if Sony had created an all-in-one headset that you could use, that would have, I think, done better. But then they have to develop for a whole other system. I think that's something that Sony is clearly trying to avoid right now, unless that new device can just play the same games as the PS5. It's not really worth trying to split up their studios that are already having a hard time getting games out at a good cadence. We're still waiting for Naughty Dog even to deliver their first new game for this generation. So yeah, you're not going to then split everyone up again. So it makes sense why everything currently is relying on that PlayStation 5, which includes this headset that has to have a wired connection. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Dodd246, says Soul Reaver games need proper remake. Remaster is not enough. So it's a double-edged sword here. It's like, okay, I would love to see a remake, but then the company goes, you know what? We're going to reimagine this thing. And it's like, oh, great, okay, great. So you don't really know. You're not sure what exactly is going to happen when you ask for that remake. Whereas a remaster, if the visuals are cleaned up, the controls are improved or more just modernized to what we have now with our controllers, even taking advantage of something like the DualSense or gyro aiming for things like the Switch and PS5, like that is a safer route. And it also means that some of these companies might take more of a chance because it's just cheaper to develop a remaster like that, as opposed to a remake that can at times get a bit out of control with scope, and then the whole thing doesn't make sense and they just cancel it, or puts out something that fans aren't exactly thrilled to see on their screen. So for Soul Reaver, I'll stick with the remaster, but I would like to think that maybe it's popular enough or draws enough interest that they go, okay, maybe we'll take another shot at this with a brand new entry. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today, where there's the current situation with the strike in gaming, especially when it comes to AI, as we're talking about artificial intelligence potentially replacing voice actors, developers, artists, pretty much all humans seemingly in the development process. And then also, what about PSVR 2? As we see the price drop significantly for it right now on sale, and then the PC adapter coming out, where you think about picking it up maybe to use to pair with a nice video card and try out on Steam. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.